This episode has been brought to you by justinform.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to justinform.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
What's going on, peeps? I want to just make sure that we are good to go before we get started. Wicked Guru, what's going on? Absolutely. Who wouldn't vote for Tulsi Gabbard? If you wouldn't vote for Tulsi Gabbard, man, look. I'm going to explain to you exactly why I would. And, you know, it's still speculation at this point. Speculative. Jesus Perez, Tulsi won't run in 2020. DNC won't let her. You know what the DNC also didn't want to happen with Tulsi Gabbard? They also didn't want her to nominate Bernie in that contested convention in 2016. They also didn't want her to back Bernie in 2016. And she took herself off of the vice chair in the DNC National Committee because of that. They also didn't want her to back Bernie, and they removed all the funding that they were giving her from the Democratic Party because she endorsed Bernie Sanders. And she still ran on progressive policies and calling out regime change and going to Syria and visiting and really saying that what we're doing over there is wrong. She called out Trump on his pretty much support of Al-Qaeda in order to overthrow Syria. Tulsi Gabbard does what she wants to do. Let's be very clear about that. So, oh, that's coincidence. Oh, shout out to my man Tim. Damn, Tim, this is the second day in a row we went live together. My bad, bro. My bad. 2020 will be Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Biden, Bloomberg, or Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is not running for office. The last term really jaded Michelle Obama. She does not like Hillary Clinton. But at that point, Obama had been so compromised legitimately. Like from a criminality standpoint, Obama was so compromised. His image, his legacy was so compromised. And Hillary Clinton could have threw him under the bus even further. That she was forced to do what she had to do as a first lady and as her husband. You know, that's her partner. And I don't think she wants to run. Michelle's not really all that political when it comes to how she engages with people a lot of the time. So you should see some of the faces she made in the 2008 race against Hillary. So Tulsi is still drinking the Democratic Kool-Aid. How? She didn't say reform the Democratic Party. Tulsi has never once said that, actually. So let's not lie. Okay. Trump won again, but I like Tulsi. The only thing, not a cancer in the Democratic Party. Actually, if Trump goes up against Tulsi, he probably won't win. I'll explain that why. Bloomberg is a serious fascist. Abso-freaking-lutely he is. He is a tool of the oligarchy. I'll take a couple of more shout outs and then I'll go ahead and get started. Didn't Tulsi yell about reform? I don't remember her. I watched that episode and I don't remember her yelling about reform on the show. I think she said that there needs to be changes to the Democratic Party, but I think that there needs to be changes to the Democratic Party. I also think there needs to be changes to the Republican Party. I also think that there needs to be changes to the Green Party. I think they all need to become more inclusive. I think they need to all be focusing on election reform and addressing more substantively election justice and election integrity. So, yeah. No, Tulsi will not be running independent in 2020. There will be nobody in the superstar world of politics running as an independent in 2020, except for maybe Jesse Ventura. Unfortunately, there has not been anybody in either of the major parties, and I include Libertarian and the Green Party in major parties because despite popular belief, despite what the mainstream media tries to tell you, they are indeed a major party. Like, the Green Party has more supporters in Ohio, for example, than the Democratic Party does, and yet they're not considered a major party in Ohio. So, oh man, Jesus, look, I really don't have any problem with Trump supporters inherently. I actually appreciate you being a Trump supporter and coming on the show and giving your opinion about things, and I appreciate, because if it's coming from a very genuine place, and you're not just like attacking just for the sake of attacking, then that's how we grow together through the exchange of legitimate discourse. Now, personally, it's just me personally, I like growing together through unity and the exchange of ideas, and I don't like investing in any one person, right? I'm all about the policy. I respect the fact that you are a Trump supporter, and that is absolutely your prerogative, but eventually people always let us down. People do, because people are inherently imperfect. And if we continue to invest our efforts in people instead of policy, instead of infrastructure, instead of the bigger picture, we will always be disappointed, or we will become so disillusioned with reality, like some of your Trump supporter friends, where we will deny the facts, right? Like, the tax bill was not good for the middle class. This is objectively true by every conservative and progressive standard. This is the Fox Business said this, and their job to tell us otherwise. Forbes said this, and their job to tell us otherwise. Like, Trump is not doing the right thing in Syria right now. He may have done the right thing before, which I was the first to admit, but he is not on the right track right now, actually defending Al-Qaeda. So, which Tulsi Gabbard talked about. So, like, that's something that should be called out. But when you invest too much in loving unconditionally one candidate, one person, one influencer or commentator, people tend to just become disillusioned with reality, and they will not hold those people accountable. So, as an objective reporter and as an objective analyst, I like to hold everybody accountable. I'm not going to say I don't have my leanings. I lean left. I lean towards people that I think are genuine. If I did have a fault as a journalist, that would be my flaw. But I'm not just going to like give Trump or Bernie or AOC or a lot of people the benefit of the doubt on their face. They have to have a history of proving that the one thing that I want to call them out for is actually out of character compared to how they normally portray themselves. So, but I appreciate you coming on, Jesus, and I appreciate that shout out, and I'm much ingratiated to you for your respect and the respect of others who we may disagree with whom we support, but we do overall agree on the mission, and we're all here to find that truth, right? So appreciate all you guys. So I want to go ahead and get started. We all love Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think that I found but maybe 3 people who dislike her. Seriously, that's not an exaggerated number. And then anybody in the social media world who has like a fake pet as their Avi on Twitter or profile picture on Facebook, maybe just coincidentally enough started tweeting or having their fake profiles in 2016, that all of a sudden hated Tulsi Gabbard right after the Democratic election when there was talks of her running in 2020. Those are all bots because of how threatening Tulsi Gabbard is to the establishment. And a lot of those bots were created right after she went to Syria to meet up with Assad and came back and said, yeah, mainstream, you have been lying to us. What the hell? I don't think they want to go to war with anybody. They just want to be left the hell alone, like most sovereign nations, or every nation for that matter. So not a lot of people dislike Tulsi. And what reason do we have to dislike her? She backed Bernie Sanders in 2016, going against the Democratic Party that was elevating her to be in Debbie Wasserman Schultz's position eventually. That was going to be her role. She even lost the funding from the Democratic Party when she endorsed Bernie Sanders. So her race became in jeopardy. Just this past race, Tulsi had to run against multiple candidates that otherwise wouldn't have ran because the Democratic Party is trying to unseat her because of how dangerous she's becoming. She introduced legislation to stop funding terrorism. She introduced legislation for election integrity. She goes on progressive independent programs like Jimmy Dore's show. Whenever I called Tulsi Gabbard, when I was doing the investigations into the corruption and the essential sabotage that was going on within the Bernie Sanders campaign from the Hillary camp, guess who was the first major politician to answer the phone? It was Tulsi Gabbard before anyone else. And she sat there and listened to me for an hour and was legitimately concerned, which is part of the reason that I imagine she introduced the election integrity legislation. Because she sees the inherent problems within our system and how we can't really move forward with anything. Peace economy, no more war, single-payer health care, to end the corruption and big money in politics. We can't go forward at all until we deal with election integrity. So, of course, they hate her. Why wouldn't they? Seems pretty standard, par for the course as far as the establishment is concerned. And all of us have been screaming, Tulsi, run for office. Tulsi, run for office. Tulsi, you're drop dead gorgeous. When can we get married? I mean, some of y'all have been screaming that. Let's be honest. Some of y'all have been screaming that. Even Joe Rogan. And when I remember when he had her on the first time, he said, man, or not had her on the first time, whenever he first saw a picture of her, he was like, man, she is smoking hot. Like, have you seen her? Like, you know, politicians don't necessarily end up always being that easy on the eye. So I think that's a compliment. I think Tulsi would love to know how many people consider her attractive. So a lot of y'all have been saying that too. I love Tulsi Gabbard, I hear like in the background, oh my God, can you please marry me? Like, that's what I've been hearing. So I want to go ahead and play this clip back to you all that may get some of your panties in a bunch, but in a good way. In a good way. You might get a little excited after you hear this. We have to be a certain age to run for office. Right. How old is you? 35. A lot of people have been those war pictures are always like interesting. So, did y'all hear that? Listen, people. Okay. Oh, if y'all couldn't hear anything, okay, let me try to play it back one more time. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. Let me try it again. Sorry. Trying to get this. There we go. Let's try this. So let's try this again. Let me know if y'all can hear.
Iran is and has been for a long time, they feel, a menace, I guess, essentially, and our enemy. Even though Congress has not declared war, even though, you know, our country just signed a nuclear deal to make it so that they can't build a nuclear weapon, it gets to a point where it seems like hysteria, but again, it's not based on actual thinking through tactically and strategically and responsively what we're actually doing and what our policy is.
Are you one of the younger people in Congress?
Yeah, you can say that. There's a handful of us who are under 40. Not many, small handful.
Then is that, I mean, you're a person who, what are you, like 37? You're not allowed to ask ladies usually, but yeah. You're Congresswoman.
Politicians are an exception, I guess.
Everything has to be on the table.
We have to be a certain age to run for office, so, you know.
Right. Well, how old do you have to be president?
35.
Oh, so you can get in there.
Yeah.
Have you thought about it?
You know, a lot of people have been, especially with everything that's going on, have been kind of urging me to consider it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm focused on home, focused on Hawaii.
Right.
Want to do my very best to be able to serve them and our country. And, yeah.
This seems like it's too much work too.
It's a lot.
It seems like too much.
It's a lot.
It ages the shit out of me.
So, I think everybody heard that. I'm going to definitely have to go back in it. Yeah, Joe is blushing. Joe is blushing, Darren. You are correct about that. So did everybody hear that? I hope that yeah, sorry. We're still trying to figure out this whole studio broadcasting thing here, okay? So, hey, appreciate your patience. With that being said, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? What she said, you know, people have told me that I should do it. I'm not saying that I'm a lot of the country's favorite politician. I'm just saying that if they had a choice, there would be no other option but me that they would vote for if I were to run. Well, are you going to run? I'm just saying I'm really focused on Hawaii right now, and the rest of the country also, just in case I decided I wanted to run for president. But I'm not, I'm not, Tulsi, let me just say you something. And you think you're slick, Tulsi. You think you are slick. She just hit, you know, Tulsi is a very straightforward person, if you haven't noticed. She doesn't really give political answers. Even in that same interview, when she was asked about the intelligence community, like, what does the intelligence community say? She was like, oh, the ones that aren't bought off, the ones who aren't trying to cover up for their bosses, the ones who aren't invested in the military-industrial complex. They actually say that we're an existential threat and we need to stop implementing regime change. So, like, she doesn't really give political answers, which is why the establishment dislikes her so much. And for her to sit there when Joe asked her, you going to run for president? Well, everybody says I should, but I'm focused on Hawaii and the rest of the country, just in case you're asking if I'm running for president and people are wondering. I am focused on the country as well. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, here's a lay. Hold on. Let's try this again. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's a lay. Don't ask me why. I just have a lay like on hand for that. I promise you that was not a prop. But she is probably going to run for president. I think that so many people have expected this. There is no other reason for her to go on Joe Rogan unless she is trying to specifically advocate for legislation or is running for office. There is no other reason for her to go on Jimmy Dore unless she is specifically trying to run for president, unless she's trying to run for president or advocating for a specific policy, or both. Now, I'm not gonna say if I done talked to some people. I might have talked to a couple of people, work that network out a little bit. I heard some rumblings. I've heard a little something or another about Tulsi running for office in 2020. A little something. I'm not saying you should be prepared for it. I'm not saying you should get excited about it. I'm not saying that for the first time we are going to have a progressive veteran, military veteran woman who was against the military industrial complex potentially running for office. I'm not saying that perhaps you should start organizing your community just in case. I'm not saying that you should go ahead and start creating your Tulsi groups on Facebook and Twitter and justinform.com. I'm not even saying that you should start getting your 2020 bumper stickers made for Tulsi Gabbard. I am not saying that. I'm not saying that we should start looking for, adequate secretaries and administrative positions, the people that would fit for her in 2020. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that Tulsi was not really giving a convincing, she was not giving a convincing act, if you will. She was not at all. And of course, in my humble opinion, I think that was probably by design because she's running for president in 2020. I've been saying this. The patterns are all there. This is exactly why I've always said from the beginning, since Bernie made that really dramatic, let's just say that, decision to endorse Hillary Clinton and not fight the Democratic Party with all of his heart and soul like many expected him to. I said the reason that he was staying out in the spotlight, the reason that he immediately dropped the D label and right after the convention said that I am an independent and I will remain so, is because he was always planning on running for 2020 because he jumped right back into the spotlight. You don't do that unless you're trying to run for office. You don't always make it very blatantly obvious in every way you can that you're on the right side of the issue if you're not running for office. You don't fly to Syria in a war zone to visit Assad as a U.S. politician. That's dangerous. But it's smart if you're running for office as a progressive. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I will not respond to this dog whistle, said the skeptics. The dog whistle of what? Tulsi Gabbard has been on the right side. You know what's really quick before I go? Tulsi Gabbard has been on the right side of every issue in the last 2 years. And here's what's even more amazing about Tulsi Gabbard. Do you know what Tulsi Gabbard was on the wrong side of before this? Every single issue. Tulsi Gabbard was not born into the political world a progressive. In fact, she came from a major conservative family. In fact, some people would even label her as some people label her prejudiced in the past. Before she evolved, before she went to the military, before she became more and more exposed to the establishment and the duopoly and how they operated, and before she realized that there was a way to become successful as an honest politician. She used to be a hardcore evangelical Christian. She became Hindu, and she became about loving and peace, peace and prosperity. Do you understand how important that is if you are going to be a leader in this insane world that we live in? I don't like Tulsi. I would like Tulsi Gabbard if she had always been on the right side of the issues all the time, and she's running for president. I'd be like, that's really cool. I really appreciate that. But after I talked to her and I talked to her colleagues and I've read about her past, I've seen her evolution. I saw her when she was faced with the same decision that every other progressive was faced with at the end of 2016. I'm speaking to Elizabeth Warren. I'm speaking about Bernie Sanders. I'm speaking about what's her name? Cynthia Nixon. I'm speaking about Andrew Gillum. I'm speaking of, all these people who consider themselves the Cenk Uygurs of the world, TYTs of the world. Everybody else had the same thing. They had the same choice. They had the same careers, not the exact same careers, but they had careers that they could lose, just like Tulsi had a career that she could lose. And they were in control of her career to a degree. She was faced with that same choice. And what does she do? That's a genuine evolution. That is genuine growth. That is the human experience personified. Tulsi has not always been right. But over the last 2 years, she learned, she grew, and I can speak to that personally. She listens. And she goes forward and tries to bring everybody with her. She doesn't like leaving anybody behind. You can hear the compassion in her voice when she speaks about the vets, her brothers and sisters in arms, about sending us off to fight somebody else's war, to kill innocent and poor people of color overseas. That's somebody I want running for office. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about it. So with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Mi Casa Su Casa. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.